everyone. It's great. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you. Nicole Christina and Carrie Luderin joining you again for our Friday at 3 o'clock mini decluttering chats. And I hope that you've had some fun taking a look at our posts and trying some things out. Today, we're going to do something that's maybe a little different. We're going to talk about handbags. And it's interesting now because handbags are used a little differently now that we're in COVID, and maybe we're not even using our handbags as much because we're not going out of the house as much. I do have a little funny story. When I was growing up, I have my mom's side of the family is Jewish, and they have some. They're just very demonstrative, funny, dramatic, and all that. And I
Mhm.
remember as a little girl, I was out with my aunt and my uncle, and we were out in Brooklyn or somewhere. And my uncle said, "Oh, I'm getting hungry," and my aunt pulled out of her huge purse a tuna fish sandwich. It
Wow.
was,
She just
it
carried one around in case of emergency.
I guess so. And that sort of stuck in my mind because that's not something we would recommend, especially
No.
in the heat. Uh,
Oh my gosh,
we don't
that's
want to
hilarious.
precipitate any visits to the emergency room, but
Right.
that's an idea I have. I also have wondered, as a woman in her late 50s, am I ever going to find the perfect handbag?
Mm.
Because I do think many of us are on this search, and I can tell that I'm not the only one, because whenever you go into a department store, TJ Maxx, any of these things, Target, there are always a ton of handbags. So I feel I may not be the only one who knows there's a perfect bag out there, but I just have not found it yet.
Yeah,
So
I
we're
would
going to talk
agree.
we're going to talk about handbags, how to declutter your handbag, what you really need in your handbag, what you might have thought you needed, and you ended up not really needing it all. But again, these mini decluttering sessions are really designed to boost your mood because people are feeling pretty tough right now with all that's going on. Generally pretty blah, and then on the other side, maybe feeling hyperactive and super focused for a little while, then blah again. We want to offer you a little bit of structure and some distraction and a feeling of a little bit of accomplishment. I mean, we're not helping you write the great American novel, but there is something to be said about having a clean, usable space. We've talked about it before. It is lovely to have space and stuff kind of clarified, especially now when nothing seems clear.
Right.
So I'm going to pass it over to Carrie, but I am going to say, Carrie, I have changed my handbags, and I'm talking about before COVID.
Hmm.
I don't know how many times this year. I mean, I found this gorgeous um, what was it? Italian. Of course, this is a thrifty thing, but at my consignment shop, it was this beautiful pebbled leather Italian pouch. I bought it because it was the most gorgeous thing I ever. But you put something in there and you never see it again because it was
Mm.
so deep. It was not crossbody. It was on my
Hmm.
shoulder, and I mean, I could keep it for its absolute beautiful color and design, but it really did not. It did not help me that much in the handbag area. So
Right. I
talk
mean,
to us.
like a lot of our clothing and our fashionable items, I feel like there's always that balance between form and function. Like we find something that's beautiful that we love the way it looks, but it's maybe just not that practical. So that's really I think in terms of choosing the right handbag for you, that's such a personal choice, and it really depends a lot on how much stuff you like to carry around, how much you feel you need to be prepared for. And like you mentioned, I think that this has probably changed. It certainly has for me, but I think for a lot of people, the idea of the ideal handbag may be different now that we're in COVID. I know
Mm,
personally, the times I'm out and about are pretty much just to run basic errands, like get groceries or run into the post office or whatever. And I don't feel the need to be so prepared because I'm not out of the house for that long.
mm,
And also, I feel like practicality has really become like my number one, you know, when I'm going out and I have to run an errand, I'm really like thinking the process through ahead of time. And I really don't want to be like fussing in a handbag where things are hard to find. I just want to be able to access what I need and use it with as little contact with things as possible, right? Because we're trying to keep
Streamlining. You're really wanting to streamline the
yeah.
process.
Yeah. So maybe I'll start with just a few general tips of handbag organizing, and then we can talk a little more specifically about how we might change things up now that we're in, the COVID-19 current situation. I was thinking about this before we started the live, and it occurred to me that a lot of the tips that I shared about organizing your car apply to organizing your handbag. And that may seem kind of weird, but again, it's a space that it's on the go with us. It's a limited amount of space, and we need just some few practical items in there, but when we need them, we really need them. So I think a little pre-planning is good. One of the tips I shared about the car that I think also applies to handbag organization is to give everything a home. So think about all the items you want to have on you and then actually assign them a place in your handbag. So this might vary depending on the type of bag you have. I'll show you the one that I'm currently using, at least the pre-COVID bag. It's a little bit big for me. Like you say, what's the perfect? But it's made by Baggalini. I like this brand because it's made out of like a nylon material, so it's very lightweight. Like before you put anything in it, it weighs almost nothing. Whereas, there are some beautiful leather or vegan leather bags that look great, but they're very heavy on their own. And so I find this kind of material is nice. I also like this because it has the Baggalini brand is kind of known for having a lot of pockets and sort of structured storage to it already. And one thing in particular that I like about this one is this is hard to see because it's black, but it has two exterior pockets in the front that zip closed. And this is helpful because I can put my phone in one and my keys in one. Again, I know which one goes in which because I always try to do it in the same place every time. And then I can zipper them closed. And I know that those things are really secured in there, but they're also really easy for me to grab. I don't have to go into the main part. The thing, if my phone goes off and I want to check it, I can just grab it from the outside.
So Baggalini has an interesting story. Do you know the history of Baggalini?
Aren't they? Wasn't it founded by flight attendants?
Yes.
Yeah, I had heard that.
I am a big fan of Baggalini, and I'm always excited when TJ Maxx gets their big stock because they're very well priced. I'm always looking for when are they going to get like the really interesting colors, but I am now using a Baggalini backpack for the same reason. I find that, some of it's pre-COVID, but it's really nice to have your hands free if you're pushing a cart or whatever. It's so light and it's not a really large bag, so it's kind of forced me to streamline, and lo and behold, I don't really need that much stuff.
Yeah. I think that's a good point about like other things, whatever space we have, we tend to fill it. So if you have a really large handbag, you're kind of setting yourself up for, I can carry all this stuff.
Knitting in it.
Right. And that may or may not be necessary or practical. So sometimes it can be good to challenge yourself a little bit and get a smaller bag and see if that can work for you as well, and really pare down. As far as, the actual organization of your bag, I think, this is a nice, small project, an easy win, as we've been calling it. But take everything out of your bag. If you haven't done that in a while, just take absolutely everything out of every pocket, get rid of all the trash and all of that. And then really take a look at the stuff that's in there. And again, ask yourself, like, how often do I need this? When's the last time I needed, a nail file or whatever on the go? Are these things really necessary for me to carry around? Ask yourself, like, if it's a larger item, a heavier item, what's the benefit ratio here? Like, is it worth carrying this thing around on the one time a year need that I have for this item? You might think about with some things, could they be stored in your car if you need them on the go and you don't have to have them actually in your handbag? Would that be a solution that would work if it is something bigger and you're trying to size down on your handbag? But yeah, really just like cleaning everything out. And I think initially putting things into categories. What do you have in there that's like related to money, your checkbook, if you still carry one of those around, your cards, cash, all of that stuff is one category. Any type of beauty or first aid items, or depending on what you carry, maybe those are two separate categories. And, any type of papers, do you carry coupons? Do you have receipts for things that need to be returned? Any kind of like sales flyers, any of that stuff. So kind of dividing things into categories and then storing things in those categories, I think makes it really helpful to find what you're looking for.
Would you use like a Ziploc bag or something like that?
Ziploc bags are great. There are all kinds of, again, some bags have built-in storage that you might be able to make use of. I have like this cute little, plastic envelope thing that I use for receipts and stuff. But, just a regular envelope works fine. Or like you say, a Ziploc bag works fine. And then, there's a lot of different size like pouches and things. And the nice thing about putting your smaller items in these, well, there's a couple advantages. You don't have all those little things like rolling around in the bottom of your bag, like you're saying. If you have a bigger bag that doesn't have a lot of structure inside, having a few different pouches, maybe one is all your, beauty first aid. Maybe the other one is more of a wallet space. In my bag, I have this one. It's kind of this long size. And in here, I have like a comb and like cough drops. And, of course, I got to have lipstick just in case or whatever. I have one of these teeny little sewing kits that has like that I would probably never sew on the go, but just having like a safety pin and stuff in there.
In case you get a splinter, you can use the needle.
There you go. Right. So, yeah, I'm trying to see what else I even have in here. I have this tiny little nail file that came in something that I just tossed in there. But the point is, all these little things, if they were just rolling around in the bottom of my bag, that would be really hard to find. Because they're in here, it keeps them consolidated. The other nice thing is if I do want to change out my bag, I can just pull this out along with my wallet and the other things that are in there. I'm looking at what else is in my bag. I have a thing for all my cards. It's just like a little zippered thing. Yeah.
That's great.
But depending on, some people would prefer to have a larger wallet where you can have the cards on one side and a spot. This I've had for years and it just works well for me. So all my cards are in here. And then I have a smaller thing for my cash. It's a little leather. So the cash folds in this pocket in the front, and then it has one of these. I like it because it's a little squeezy thing.
Wow, they're so specialized.
Yeah, and the change goes in here.
I would expect nothing less. And they all probably, the colors probably are
everything's pretty much black. These are both from a company called Levenger. They're available online, and I literally have had these for decades, these two little things, and they have lasted all that time. I don't know what their offerings are. Obviously, these are like very old, but
you're a fan.
Yeah, they have some really nice quality. And I think that's also something to keep in mind. We've talked a little bit here about quality versus, cost, and sometimes it is worthwhile to invest in a decent quality wallet or even a handbag that's going to last you years rather than, something that's vinyl, that the strap is going to break off. I had that happen to me last year with some very cute but very cheap purse, and the strap just broke off. And
Yeah, that's what you're going to get at Target probably.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've done with the Baggalini, and I'm sure you have too, is they're washable. So what I do is I put them in a lingerie bag and just put them on very gentle, a hand wash cycle. And sometimes, they you spill your coffee on them, or, they get sticky or whatever. They come out like brand new.
Yeah, I mean,
So
not
if you're
sponsored by Baggalini, but
yes, hashtag Baggalini.
They're because of the material. It's like a nylon. It is very easy to wash. So that's another thing I think at the front end when you're making a purchase, ask yourself, especially if it's a lighter color bag, what's going to happen when it gets dirty? Because it's going to. And is this a washable item, or how easily is it going to be to wash it? And factor that into your decision of making the purchase.
What is your thought? And I know this is probably personal, but we're sort of leaning towards what do you really need, right? What is your thought about seasonal purses?
Oh, I mean, again, it is a personal decision. I think that, a lot of people would like to have the look of something different depending on the seasons, maybe a lighter color or a lighter material for the summer months. Again, I think it's all about what works for you. If you are the type of person that likes to change out your bags, you might be served well by using this sort of pouch organizing system where, especially if you want to change it more often than just seasonally, maybe you change it with your outfits or something. But if you only have a couple, maybe your wallet and a couple pouches, those are easy to take out and put into another one. Whereas if you have a bunch of stuff all distributed throughout your bag, that can be a little more of a pain to swap things out. So, yeah.
If you were going to recommend a sort of a all-season purse, what would you recommend?
That's a great question, Nicole. I don't know. I think it really depends on what people are looking for. I feel like it's such a personal decision in terms of the size, in terms of the color. Do you want it to look more fashion? Do you want it to be more functional? So I think it's hard for me to make an overall. I mean, we've already said we kind of like the Baggalini brand, and they carry a lot of different sizes and formats. Like you said, you have the backpack version. They make some really small crossbody versions if you just want to have the very few basics on you. So yeah, it's hard for me to make a here.
Mailman's here.
Oh.
Probably bringing me another Baggalini.
Right.
But don't
Not sponsored. One other thing that I'll mention, I think some people accumulate a lot of trash in their handbag, and that can be the source of a lot of clutter. And, gosh, it's just the mailman. So if that's the case, you might think about having a trash receptacle in your bag. And that may sound kind of crazy, but just a place where you can put all the little scraps of stuff, or like you mentioned, the wipes that you might be using now, or things like that. One recommendation is to take just an empty pill container and make that your handbag trash receptacle. So, because usually the stuff that we have on the go is really little
it's
trash.
like gum wrappers. And
Yeah, a little piece of receipt or whatever. So, if you can, or a Ziplock bag again, something like that, or even if you just have a little, any type of little pouch that can serve as the place where you put the trash. That makes it easy then when you get home to dump that out, and you're not accumulating that stuff down in the bottom.
That's really smart, and I have not heard that before, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
That.
So those are just a few general, again, giving everything a home in the bag, dividing things by category, can be helpful in terms of finding things and also putting them away. Having the trash receptacle. And then maybe we can talk a little bit about handbags during COVID.
Let's do that.
You want to do that? I don't know. Have your habits changed at all, Nicole, since this started in terms of what you carry around with you?
What's changed is when I make a lot of my deposits at the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to shut this door. Hold on one second.
Okay. This is the fun of doing these from home with all of our family members and pets around.
That's a Jack
Welcome
Russell.
Back.
Thank you. So what I have done, though, is I make a lot of deposits at the ATM, which I'm imagining is like only the third worst place to put your fingers, right?
Right.
So what I do is I put my card in, and then when it comes out, I do my sanitizing. I sanitize the card and let it air dry before I put it back in my purse. I suspect, I mean, I'm careful. I'm not wearing a hazmat suit. I'm careful. Right. But that to me seems like if there's any place COVID's living, it's in the cracks of that ATM. So,
right. And that's a place that's getting a lot of contact with various people. And yeah, it's probably good to err on the side of caution there. Yeah.
And just using, I mean, as you are too, not going a lot of places that I would need a purse. Sometimes when I go thrifting, I have a tape measure. I have I might have a something on graph paper. I mean, who knows? You know, I may have.
Oh yeah, I have my tape measure in my bag.
There you go. I have a fabric swatch.
Carry this one around.
I love it.
I'm often measuring for people's organizing containers or stuff like that. So I got to have one on hand all the time too.
I used to have one on a keychain, but I think that has seen better days.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just as you say, really trying to streamline the process. Not spending as much money is nice too. So I'm not getting into my wallet as much.
Same.
Yep.
Yeah. I've been pretty limited in terms of what I'm doing, and going to the grocery store has been kind of the main outing, and it can be very stressful these days to go to the grocery store. I feel like I'm always thinking ahead about keeping distance from people and what I'm touching, all that. So the less fussiness I have with my handbag, the better I find in that. I also sometimes I feel weird about putting the bag in the cart. I mean, I've done that, but I'm just thinking, I know they wipe the carts down. I've brought my own wipes to wipe down the cart, but again, it just seems like you're saying, a high touch area, the shopping cart. So I've started just using a little crossbody bag. This is very small and it has the long strap. When I go to the grocery store, and I really just have like the very basics. Like I have my phone and my cards in there and cash or whatever. But one thing that I like about this one is it has a zipper on the outside. So what I do is before I go into the store, I pull the cards out of my wallet that I'm going to need, like my store card and my credit card, and I put them in here. And that way, when I go to check out, I don't have to like open this, take out the wallet, find the card, and touch all of that stuff. Because once I've shopped,
you're sure.
I feel like my hands are like, infected.
Do you put? Okay, so they hand you the receipt, right? Which is sort of a little.
Oh, the receipt. Yeah, I usually just toss that. I usually put the receipt in the bag with the groceries. That's what I've been doing. And then I unpack it. And then the process when I get home is another thing. Although I think there have been some new guidelines that have come out that have said the likelihood of infection from surfaces is probably low. But I think we're all still, it's a personal decision. Yeah, it's still a little uncertain. But I'm just finding that this is, it's one less step I have to take of digging into the bag to get my cards out. And then also when I come home, the only things that were out in the world in the store are right here, like all the stuff inside was kept contained.
Hermetically sealed.
Yeah.
No, so that's a very thoughtful way to do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I also like this, like I said, I just wear it while I'm shopping, so I don't have to put the bag in the cart, which I like. And it also means, I don't know, I'm kind of a paranoid person when I'm out. Like if my cart is there and I need to walk somewhere, I don't want to leave it. But if the bag is on me, I can kind of wander further from my cart than I normally would. And I've found it's a little extra peace of mind.
I think it's smart, and we're talking about simplifying and being thoughtful about our stuff. I've made many mistakes with purses because they're beautiful, and I love really good quality Italian leather,
Yeah.
especially at my favorite consignment store. And I bought them again and again, thinking that's too beautiful, that's too gorgeous. It's like brown suede. I can't resist. But I'm really sold on a crossbody, and it's such a much more efficient way to have your purse because it's right at your side. You're not sort of like taking it off, like maybe wanting to put it
Yeah.
down. And I like the backpack for that too. It's
Right.
it's just sort of out of my way. They have some weird strap thing you can wear it sideways. But I found that, as you mentioned with the form and function, I've started coming around more to like really, if you want something beautiful, buy a painting,
Right.
but wear something practical to the grocery store.
Yeah, I think at this moment in time, maybe a lot of us are moving more towards the practical side for handbags, just because shopping has become less of a leisure activity and much more of just like get in, get what you need, get out, and minimize your contact with as many things as possible. So, hopefully, I know we're opening phase 2 here in New York State today. And so I think things are slowly inching back towards a little bit of normality, but I suspect the shopping experience is probably going to continue to be a little weird for a while. So if you haven't yet thought through your handbag and maybe made some more practical decisions about how you're keeping stuff in there, this might be a good time to do that.
And that sort of leads us into talking about our show, because this is a great example of how we look at sort of parts of our lives that would really improve greatly if we spent some time kind of going through and being thoughtful about what we really use, what serves us, and maybe reconsidering how much we have and how much it takes from us in terms of having to maintenance it, having to step over it, having to have it all around us.
Right.
I remember when my son was young and he was going to Montessori, they had this idea, Maria Montessori had this idea that it's very hard to think straight when you've got clutter everywhere. And I think that that's probably true. One day we'll be able to see that on a PET scan. There's something really lovely about organizing our space in a way that feels just right for us. It doesn't mean it's going to be a monastery, but at least it means that in my case, the yarn is going to be all nestled in its basket or baskets. Um, and, the magazines are going to be stacked up, and I'm not living in a whirlwind of my clutter. It really increases the value of my life. And we think that doing our course, which is pretty direct, it's very practical, it's kind of fun, it's thought provoking, will really help you make some decisions that would improve your life as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So for folks that haven't heard yet about our course, even though we've talked about it a little bit every week, our course is called Too Much Stuff. It is a video course with Nicole and I. So you've gotten a little bit of a sample of what we are like. And
our repartee.
That's right. But in the course, it's video content. There's 4 video lessons with Nicole and I. And we basically go through the process of helping you take a closer look at the things that you're hanging on to, maybe things from your past, things that you have sentimental feelings about, the really challenging stuff. And we give you some tools to think through that process and help you really be intentional about what things you're keeping in your life. So the course has kind of been geared toward people, we say, in middle age, bless you, in middle age and beyond. And bless you again. The reason for that was, we know that people, around our age and older, there's often a lot of big life transitions that are happening. And with each transition, there's often a lot of stuff that either is coming in or is potentially going out, as kids get older and kind of leave the nest. You may be left with a lot of their things from their childhood or all their school stuff. And those things can really be hard to part with. But it's important, I think, to know that you really can't keep everything, and that in some cases, hanging on to a lot of stuff from our past can really hold us back. So we dive into all of that stuff, but we really try to give you some tools to make it a more simplified process, because we know it can be emotionally challenging.
And it's as Carrie has said before, it's a no judgment zone. We know it's difficult. Um, and we know that there are a lot of feelings mixed up, and they're mixed feelings, which as a therapist, I can tell you are the hardest kind to deal with, that you love that person, but you don't necessarily want all their dishes. So, how do
Right.
you deal with that? And what do you do in terms of guilt? What do you do in terms of the sadness of saying, wow, that person really is out of my life now? It
Mm-hmm.
brings up a lot of feelings, and we wanted to address the practical aspects, but also give you tools to say, look, this is going to happen because you're human, and this is part of the process. So why don't you try these things and see if you can kind of uh, be more aware of what's happening and not be as likely to feel overwhelmed.
Right, right. And along with the video lessons, our course includes a workbook that is a space with some questions and some exercises that just kind of help you bring the course material to you personally. And it allows you to do a little bit of self-reflection on some of these issues that you might be dealing with, and to come to your own conclusions about what's really important to keep as you move forward into whatever phase of life you're going into.
I think this is a great opportunity too with COVID, and there's been a lot written on this. It's like we're really having, some of us, not all of us, but we're having the time to look back and say, okay, I'm going to have to recreate my life. So why don't I do it thoughtfully and in a way that reflects what's important to me?
Yeah.
So now I know I really do love making bread, and I'll be adding that to my repertoire even as COVID resolves in any way that it's going to.
Yeah.
Um, so that it gives us a chance to say, how do I want my living room to be? Do I need, every single pillow that has ever been embroidered or whatever,
Right.
that kind of thing. It just gives us pause. And I think it's a great opportunity to do some of these little projects that don't feel so overwhelming, but that do help us feel better.
Yeah, I agree. And you're not the only person I've spoken to who really has reconnected with certain hobbies or certain activities that they love. And they're like, yeah, I really want to keep doing this.
Mm.
And, now that we're reopening things again, I think, we're going to start feeling that pressure to get back into everything. And you're right, this is a good time to to continue to be careful about that, and to pause and say, okay, what of my previous life do I want to bring back, and what of these new things that I've discovered about myself do I want to keep going as well?
I had this epiphany, which isn't, I mean, I guess I should have already had it many times. Been changing over my clothes because it's just started getting warm in central New York. And I was just struck by, I have a lot of really beautiful clothes that I love. Most of them have been bought at the consignment, but I love
Mm-hmm.
them. I don't need any more. I'm not
Yeah.
even trying to be like minimalist. I'm like, how many linen dresses does one person need? I've got
Right.
I've got a rainbow of them, and they're all beautiful, but I can't possibly wear any more dresses or have any more pretty color Birkenstocks that I already
Right,
have.
right.
So it really just keeps striking me. It's more and more clear as we, go about our days here in COVID that, wow, stuff is not what it's cracked up to be. But baking bread is.
Right, right. And that's important for all of us to examine and, what are the priorities and intentionally creating the life that we want and not just getting caught up in, I got to do this or I got to do that, or I got to shop for more clothes that I don't need. So, yeah. All right. So we are going to come back next week and we are planning to talk about organizing your home office. So we think this is a timely topic. A lot of people are working from home who haven't before, or maybe you're working from home more than you did before. So we'll have some tips for organizing that important space. And Nicole, anything to add as we wrap up?
I guess I just hope for everybody that they can get a little bit of a mood lift from doing one of these micro projects. Again, the small wins. I've been doing that myself. I think I'm going to do a little basement work later this afternoon because it's really muggy and hot.
Yeah.
But we're all kind of in this process together, and I found it to be very helpful for mental health. And I'm, just trying to help people put a toolbox together of what's going to help me feel just a little bit better, a little more accomplished, a little bit more in control. This is one of those tools in the toolbox. And I'm really open to hearing any of your comments, any of your questions. Please put it in the links below. We really want to be helpful.
Absolutely. So we'll also provide a link to the page, which has more information about our course, Too Much Stuff. And other than that, we will see everyone next week, same place, same time.
Sounds great.
All
Good
right.
luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.